guess who's back to another week of what I read in my daily life. So, hi, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Mina and I am going to be reading some of my most anticipated reads of the year. And I know I just made a video that I read my most anticipated reads of the year of, but also like there's a lot more that I'm very, very excited to read. So this is just gonna be a what I read in my week. So it's not going to be like me really trying very hard to get as many books as I can in a singular week. I'm just going to be picking up whatever book I can whenever I can, and I'm going to read them. These books just happen to be some of my most anticipated reads that I've picked up from my library and I'll be able to finally get to. Some of these were released recently, some of these were released in January, so I'm very, very excited to do this video. And the first book that I'm going to be picking up is none other than, I almost called it Heartstrings, because it says it right here, Heartstrings. First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. If you don't know who B.K. Borison is, she's basically the author of the Tree Light Farms, I think that's what it's called, or something like that series, and a lot of people really praise her writing. I believe this one is about a woman and a man. The man kind of runs a love advice hotline on the radio, and she calls, or her daughter calls, and something goes from there. I love this cover. This cover is one of my favorite covers that I've ever seen. I love the pink and I love the little pastel beige, and I just think this is one of the most stunning covers I've ever seen. I will definitely be purchasing my own copy of this just because I want the cover even if I don't like the book, and I will be really disappointed if I don't like this book because just the cover on its own makes me so excited to pick it up. And I know they say to not judge a book by its cover. That's exactly what I'm doing because I'm just human. This is the book that I'm going to be starting with. I'm very, very excited because I think this one is going to be very highly rated. From what I've read about it, I think I'm really going to enjoy it. So I'm going to be picking this one up, and then we are going to get on with the rest of the week, and I will pick up whatever books I get my hands across as I get my hands across them, and hopefully this will be a great week of reading. I'm very, very excited, and I'm just gonna let you go so I can get started.
Bam!
I'm like 100 and something pages away from the end. I'm on page 302 out of 422, so I'm like 120-ish pages away from the end, and I am eating this book up. Eating it up, and I didn't even expect it to. All the reviews that I've seen so far of this book have been people saying that it's enjoyable, but not like 5-star material. This book follows the story of Lucy, who is a single mom, and her daughter basically one night calls this love hotline, romance hotline, advice situation, who Aiden is in charge of, who is our main love interest. And the daughter is 12 years old, and she calls this love hotline saying that her mom hasn't dated in basically a decade, and she wants her mom to go out there and get out there and start dating because she's afraid that her mother might be lonely. Aiden basically is like, what can we do to help your mom? The phone call between the two of them on the radio station goes viral, and she is invited, Lucy is invited to come and basically do a segment on the show where Aiden will help her find her one true love. I'm eating it up. It's so good. It's so good that I actually find myself like giggling and laughing out loud like a maniac. I am loving this book so much. I can't even think. I read for hours and I end up losing track of time, and that doesn't happen very often. I don't really feel for other books the way that I feel for this book. And the fact that this book is making me giggle and just have the best time. I'm having the best time. I'm having so much fun. That's my Goodreads like update on page 300, is that I am having so much fun reading this book. I love the characters. I love Aiden so much, and I love Lucy so much, and I love them together because it just makes me giddy. That's the best way that I can describe it. I just feel giddy reading them together and reading Lucy having and developing a crush on Aiden, and watching Aiden develop a crush on Lucy, and then watching everybody basically who is listening to this hotline fall in love with them together, but they're just too idiotic to know that the other person feels the same way for them, and it's just so fun. I'm really having the best time reading this book. I am so glad that I picked this one to pick up first because I feel like this is such a great palate cleanser between all of the fantasy that I read in the last month. Before I picked up this one, I was reading mafia romances and fantasy, and so this one is just a cute, fun, contemporary romance. Adorable, really love it, and I just love everybody in this world so much, and I'm really having the best time. If you can't tell by how much I'm gushing about it, I'm still not done with it. I don't know if I'm going to read a little bit more today and then finish it tomorrow, but I will definitely be finishing it tomorrow and then probably picking up another book. 10 out of 10. I definitely recommend. If it looks like my scarf is acting crazy, that's because it is. It absolutely is. If you saw it, no you didn't, and I did not just draw your attention to it. So carry on. I have finished with First Time Caller, and like I said, this one was such a fun read. This one felt like watching a rom-com happen, but instead of watching it, I was just reading it, but I could visualize it so well. I don't know what it is about this type of rom-com, specifically this type of rom-com where there's like the guy is trying to help a girl find a guy, but instead falls for her in the process. I love me a good plot line like that, and this book was specifically that, and for that reason, I just could so vividly imagine it, and I adored it so much because honestly, I don't tell a lot of people this at all. I don't think anybody really knows this, but I have thought about becoming some sort of radio host. That was kind of one of the things that I was exploring as I was growing up. Reading about him, about Aiden being a radio host, was so entertaining. Specifically, like a love hotline host was so fun. This book was so fun. I genuinely had the best time reading this book. I was smiling, I was giggling, I was like twirling my hair and I couldn't put it down, and I really enjoyed it, and I finished it this morning, and I am giving this one a 4.5 stars, only simply for the fact that Aiden is really difficult to manage as a male character. Like honestly, I do see his type, I understand. He's very realistic when it comes to his avoidant attachment style, and I understand where it comes from because you get to see his backstory and it's very full of depth, and he's such a real person to me and not just a character. And so I could see where he was coming from when he was very closed off and very like horrible when it comes to just being open with his feelings and communicating with the female main character. But that's the only reason why I docked a 0.5. Otherwise, it would have been a 5 stars. I would have loved this so much if he just wasn't so difficult up until the last like 20 pages of the book. I do understand where it's coming from though. So I'm not really all that mad about it, you know. Really loved it, really adored it. And then now the next book that I'm going to be picking up is the talk of the town. Everyone and their mother is talking about this book. Everyone and their mother is praising this book. Everybody that I watch on YouTube, on Book Talk, everywhere. This book I had to wait several people out for at the library because of how many people are reading it right now. And that is none other than The Favorites by Lane Fargo. And all I know about this one is that it follows two figure skaters, from what I know. And the tagline is literally, to the world, they were a scandal, to each other, an obsession. Very excited to pick it up. Very excited to see what all the hype is about, because I do see a lot of people that I follow and that I watch give it very high ratings and really adore it and really love it. So I'm very excited to figure out my own opinions on it. And I might as well just pick it up today because I am so excited to finally pick it up. So excited. I have a feeling that this is going to be very highly rated as well. So, what a great reading week. I'm having so much fun. I cannot believe the luck and the absolute pleasure that I am having in this week of reading. It is later on in the day, obviously, because it's dark outside. And I have been reading The Favorites pretty much since I got home from work. I started it and now I am on page 156. It's reading a little bit slower than I'm usually used to. The pages are huge and they have a lot of writing on them, but there are some pages where it's like transcript of like interviews, because if you don't know what the story follows, it's basically following. I thought I was recording for a minute and I had a heart attack. This book follows the story of Katarina and Heath, who are two people who meet when they are younger. Heath is this kid who is down on his luck. He's been dumped basically from one foster home to another, and he is really struggling, and he meets Katarina one day because he is a hockey player and he's practicing at the same rink that Katarina practices at, and she is a figure skater, ice skater person, and she is 100% set on becoming an Olympic gold winning person. That is her goal in life. That is where she wants to be. Both of her parents pass away, and she is left under the care of her brother, who is very horrendous. He is always drinking, always wasting her money, and always just treating Heath like shit, because Heath is supposed to come and live with Katarina because her dad, before he passed away, ended up basically becoming Heath's guardian. And now that her father has passed away, her brother is not letting Heath stay in the house. And so now they have to figure that out. And they also are both very poor and very broke. And they don't have any money, but they have to figure out ways to get to different skating competitions and championships and stuff like that. And we follow their story as they go through all of these things. And in the opening of the book, basically Katarina is saying, I believe it's Katarina, she's saying that this is the 10th year anniversary of the worst day of her life. It's told in different sections where you have Katarina telling the story and also different interviews with other people that knew her and knew Heath when they were famous and they were basically becoming the prodigies that they end up being, I assume. And I am having the best time. I cannot stop thinking about this book. I cannot put this book down when I'm not reading it. I'm listening to it. The audiobook is excellent. I definitely recommend. If you have any Spotify hours, then I definitely recommend it. It is so good. They have different people for different casts and it's just so excellent and it's so good and I cannot put it down. I'm rooting for them both so incredibly much and I just feel so immersed in the story to where I try to put it down, but then something happens at the end of the chapter lecture or at the end of an interview or something like that, and I just end up gasping and then wanting to continue and being unable to put this book down. Even on my drive home, which I usually listen to music on my drives home, I could not put this down, and I had to listen to it on my drive home because I didn't want to stop reading it. I am having the best time. I understand why everybody keeps saying that this book is so hard to put down, because it really is. I am so excited to see where it's going to go, how it's going to progress, what happens between the characters and what leads them to where they are in the beginning of the book. And we just got to a part that is so full of drama, and I need to know what's going to happen. So I'm gonna hop off of here and read a little bit more. I just wanted to update you and let you know that I have indeed started this, and I am absolutely eating it up. It is beautiful, wonderful, magical, and I am having the best time, and it feels like I'm watching a TV show happen. And it's the strangest thing, because I felt that way with First Time Caller too. Is this gonna be a theme for this week? Wait and find out. But I'm having the best time, and I definitely recommend this book already. I'm so excited to see where it's gonna go. The drama, eating it up. I love me a good drama when it's not me involved in it. Eating it up. Why wasn't I warned that this book was gonna stress me out? I should have known from the beginning of reading this book that it was going to be a very stress-inducing book, because I was already very stressed from last night when I started it. I found myself just genuinely being gobsmacked about everything that was happening in the entire book. From the very beginning to the very end, it went places I did not think it was going to go. I was so shook by how well the story is written and how realistic it is. And this is not to say that I have no complaints about it, because trust and believe, do I have some complaints about it? I felt like I was having a heart attack after a heart attack reading this book in the worst and the best way possible. I don't think I've been this like immersed in a story in a very long time, to the point where I felt like I was going through what they went through. There's something that happens between Heath and Bella. For whoever's read this book, I'm not gonna tell you who those characters are, but there's something that happens between those two that genuinely has me shook. And then when I thought I reached peak shookness, it pushed it a step further. Oh my God, was I stressed? Oh my God, never have I ever felt so much urgency about reading a book. I was reading it and listening to it on double, like 2.25 speed, and I felt like I wasn't ingesting it fast enough. I wanted more. I wanted to know everything that happens from the very beginning to the very end, and I wanted to know it now. Like, reading it and listening to it was too slow. It wasn't the information and the story wasn't happening fast enough. I just wanted to keep going, and I wanted to go faster and faster, and just to find out where this was going to go and how it was going to get resolved. There were so many things that happened that stunned me, because I genuinely didn't see where the story was headed ever. Every time I thought I knew where it was going, I was wrong, and I didn't know where it was going. I love this book so much, and I hate this book so much at the same time. So I guess the way that I feel about it is the same way that the two main characters feel about each other. It drives me crazy. It drove me crazy. It made me just like to the brink of insanity and then pulled me back, and I just had the best time and the worst time. It stressed me out, and it also gave me everything that I wanted all at once. I will say the ending, what was that? I didn't suffer through 400 pages for that ending. I wanted more, but I will take what I was given and not be greedy, because the way that this book captured my attention and the way that it's so captivating and how much drama happens, oh my God. Oh my God, I cannot say enough good things about this book. I was listening to it in my AirPods this morning, and I was so immersed in the story that I didn't even hear my coworkers saying hello and saying good morning. I just was genuinely like dove headfirst this morning into it, and it just, ooh, it stressed me out so much. It stressed me out so much. All of that to say is, I'm telling you my rating now. I'm giving this one a good old 5 stars because it's 5 stars worthy. Not the way that the story is. Like, obviously there are some parts of it where I did not agree with, and there are some parts of it where it made me pissed off. The characters, Katarina got on every singular nerve in my being. Every single nerve ending was lighting up whenever she would open her mouth. She pissed me off so much. She stressed me out so much. She gave me so many headaches. I think she might be even more frustrating than America Singer in this election, but like a little bit less, because she stressed me every time she opens her mouth and every time she just has a thought. I'm like, can somebody get this girl like a medical, like a psychological eval, because she needs it. And then Heath, and then them together, like, it was like watching a car wreck that like you can't look away from. You know what? There's an accident and there's so much traffic and everybody that's driving past it is looking at it, and you're sitting there 80 cars back thinking like, I swear to God, I don't understand why we stop and look at car accidents as if we've never seen one. And then when it's your turn to pass it, you're looking as well. That's how I felt about this book, because I just could not look away, even though the characters stressed me out to the max. And then the thing that happens towards the end, I was on the edge of my seat. I actually had to get up. You saw me. I had to get up and like take a walk to my window and like just think about my life choices that led me to reading this book. Back to what I was saying, giving it 5 stars, not because of like the content of the book, but because of how it made me feel. And also the content of the book. I was so immersed in the story. I told you, I didn't realize what was going on around me. I literally spent my entire workday today listening to the audiobook and then reading the actual physical book when I had the time, because of how much I needed to know what was going to happen. I listened to it on my drive home yesterday, and then I listened to it on my drive to work this morning. I could not put it down because I was just so, like I told you, I've never felt such urgency to know the story. Like, it wasn't that I needed to know what the ending was going to be. I just needed it to keep moving, and it wasn't moving fast enough because I needed to, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if anybody's felt that way before. I'm sure somebody out there has. I just needed to know the story, and I needed to know it now. Like, just like give it all, put it in my brain, so I don't have to stress about what was going on, because Heath and Katarina were stressing me the heck out. 5 stars for the way that it made me feel and the way that it made me so captivated and so just immersed in the story. Props to Lane Fargo for writing such a story that captured my attention to the point where I couldn't put the book down. I understand why people would give it low ratings, because like I said, I understand, like, Heath and Katarina are some of the most flawed characters I've ever read about. So I do understand, and like their toxic relationship. So I get where the negative ratings could come from, but I also see the positives because I couldn't put this book down. Now, speaking of stress and 5 stars, the next book I'm already stressed about. This has been such a great reading week. And if this book falls flat, it's really gonna ruin my entire week, even though my week has been so great so far. This book is a 5-star prediction. This book I have been waiting for since last year. My reaction to the ending of the first book in this duology was shock and my jaw on the floor. So now that I have the second book in the duology, I cannot believe it's here. This is one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and I'm so scared and nervous to see where the author goes with the story. Yep, Rebel Witch by Kristen, and I'm not even gonna attempt to read her last name. I'm not even gonna bother. Like, you see it? Yeah. This is a duology following the story of a witch and a witch hunter. She is basically helping witches get out, because in this world, witches are not supposed to exist or be around, and they're hunted. Therefore, the witch hunter, he is tracking her down. He doesn't know that she is who she is. This is the second book in the Crimson Moth duology, or Heartless Hunter. I loved Heartless Hunter, Crimson Moth so much, to the point where I still think about it very, very often, believe it or not. This is not a book duology that has gotten off my mind since I read the first book. And now that I have the second book, I am so scared. This is definitely a 5-star prediction. This is a book I've been looking forward to for months. And now that I have it in my hands, I am so scared to start it because, oh my God. It's the same way with this, where I just need to input this in my brain so I can sleep easy. I'm so excited to pick this up. You have no idea. I started with Rebel Witch book, and now I am on page 200 exactly, on chapter 32, and this book follows Rune and Gideon. Rune is a witch, and she lives in this world where witches are condemned and they are hunted, and Gideon is a witch hunter, and he's hunting the Crimson Moth, who Rune is, but he doesn't know. He kind of suspects it, so he is pretending to court her to find out if she is the Crimson Moth so he can end her. And that was what happens in the first book, and then this is the second book in the duology. I can't tell you what's going on in it because obviously I would spoil everything that happens in the first book, but I am having the best time. I forgot how much I adore Gideon. I adore him so much. I adore him. Some of the things he says in this book are just so heart-melting. Oh my God, I love them. There's the scene when they're on a ship and he says this line in his brain. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. This is everything. This is fake dating, forced proximity, fake engagement, enemies to lovers, but not really enemies, but neither of them can be with the other, because genuinely deep down, like, his family has been affected by witches, and so he just genuinely has like this hatred for witches deep down inside of him, and Rune is just being hunted for who she is as a witch. And she has her own issues as well. And so it's just really good. It's really good. I'm really having the best time with this book. I'm having the best time. I cannot put this book down. I can't stop thinking about it. I am officially 50%, I think, or a little bit close to 50%. And so I'm very excited to see where it goes, because I am loving being back in this world. And I'm so scared to see how Kristen is going to just wrap everything up together in the end of this book, because this is a duology, so this is the last book in the duology, and I'm very nervous, very scared, but very excited because I just adore this world so much, and it's so easy to understand. This is peak romantasy. I said it in the first video and I'll say it again. When I first read Crimson Moth, Heartless Hunter, I was so enamored by the characters and the way that they talk to each other and the way that none of the scenes felt forced. You know, sometimes when you read a line in a specific book and you're like, you just wanted to add this trope in here even though it has nothing to do with the story. This book, the lines are there because it fits in the story, and it's so good, and I just adore both Rune and Gideon, and I have nothing but fond and good things to say about this book duology. And if you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it. If you like a good romantasy with enemies to lovers, this one's where it's at. I am going to read a little bit more and then I will probably be finishing it tomorrow. I don't see myself finishing it today because I'm trying to extend my time with it, but just know this week continues with just absolute gems of books. It is the last day of this video and I have finished with Rebel Witch. It brought me back to some of my favorite characters. I really enjoy the world in this book. I don't know what it is about Rune and Gideon that just makes me giddy, for the lack of a better word. Reading about them is so entertaining and so fun, and the stakes are always high and it always feels like there's something going on in the plot, so you never get bored and you never feel like there's a lull in the action or in the romance. This is a very like capital R romantasy. It's mostly focused on the romance. So if you don't like a romantasy that's not split 50-50, I don't recommend this series or this duology. But for me, loving a great romance between Rune and Gideon is everything that I could have ever possibly wanted, and I'm so glad that they ended up where they ended up. I will say that I didn't like the way that the book ended because it feels like we lost the plot towards the end. The plot has been a running theme throughout the entirety of the duology, and I felt like it was really well scattered throughout so you don't get bored between the plot and the romance. But I feel like towards the end we kind of forgot about the plot and we focused more on the romance because that's what the readers wanted to read. It feels like a love letter to Rune and Gideon, but it doesn't feel like the ending really tied all the knots together of the plot. I wish we hadn't rushed through it. It felt very rushed to me, and it felt like within the last 50 pages at least, it was just go to the point where you really couldn't think about what was actually happening between the characters and in the plot, which is the most important thing to me. I just feel like we lost a little bit of the plot towards the end and it was just a little bit rushed. So for that reason, it is not a 5-star, but it is a very close, and I am rating this one a 4.5 stars. I really loved it, really loved being back in this world. I liked the way that it was wrapped up. I liked the way that it came towards the end, and I really liked the way that we gradually built towards the ending of it. I really enjoyed it, really recommend it. I love this duology. I love Rune and I love Gideon, and I love every single scene that happened between them in this book. We got everything. We got the single bed trope, we had the forced proximity, the hate to love you trope, and I just really loved it. I loved being back in this world. I loved Rune and I loved Gideon and I love everybody else that's in this world, and I just really adore Kristen for creating a book duology that really made me leave real life, because every time I was reading this book, I didn't know what was happening around me, and for that reason, I really loved it, and I just really adore this book. So yeah, we have come to the end of this video where I read, which I called this one Heartstrings the first time I picked it up. This one is First Time Caller. Really loved it, really adored it. It kind of pales in comparison now that I'm looking back at the week of reading that I had, but it was still really good and I still really recommend it. And then How could I forget my beloved The Favorites? This one took my soul out of my body multiple times in the reading experience that I had. Never have I felt such urgency to finish a book and just have all of the info inputted into my brain so I don't stress out as much as I did, but I really loved it and it was such a fun experience. I think I'm always going to look back at this book in such a fond way because of how much fun I had reading it. It was really such a great time. Obviously, we finished with Rebel Witch, which I've been waiting for since last year, and I'm so glad it didn't let me down. It gave me all of the fan service that I needed between Gideon and Rune and gave me plot until the end, so I'm not really mad about it. 4.5 stars, really loved it. And with that being said, that is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts and opinions were on them. If you loved them, if you adored them, if you hate them, if you gave them 1 stars, let me know. Let me know if you have any books that you are looking forward to reading next month. And let me know down below what your favorite book that you've recently read is, because I would love to know. I hope you have the very best day. Treat yourself to something nice, and I'll see you guys again next week with another video. Goodbye!